Welcome everyone to our daily Forex market analysis call, and this is in preparation for our trading on November 29th, 2017. Just a quick disclaimer before we get started. This is for education purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. All right, so starting off at the top, we'll start off with the news. So the big thing today was this bank stress test results for British pound. And then we have Bank of England Governor Carney speaking. So interesting day today overall, very, very volatile day. Couple of things going on. First one was for British pound. So euro overall just took a hit. And yesterday we had a negative close for the euro. So it was a bearish candle close for the daily. And as a result, euro dropped. But for British pound, it was quite an interesting day because initially with all the stress tests and stuff, and then we had Governor Carney speaking. So basically, Bank of England Governor Carney said that essentially he was a little bit concerned about how the results of the impact of Brexit on the economy. And then later on, there was some comments or news on the wire around Brexit negotiations. So they were falling apart. Things were not going so well. And as a result, we saw British pound tank. But then there were further comments about how they had reached an agreement with the EU around Brexit. So that's what pushed the British pound back up 100-some pips. So it was a crazy volatile day. So that was one thing going on with British pound. Another thing that was going on overall with the yen. So North Korea launched a missile at Japan. It did not quite get to Japan. It landed in the ocean besides Japan. So as soon as there was news of the missile launch, we saw yen went up. So all the yen crosses dropped. And then once we heard that the missile didn't actually hit Japan, it actually landed in the ocean. That actually sent everything around the other way. So a very, very volatile day for the yen. So now we had a couple of yen trades in. So depending on how you guys monitored it, if you got out, that's great. If not, unfortunately, the stop would have taken you out there because it just went, punched the stop, and then with the New Zealand yen, and then it came back down. So a volatile day, and this is why understanding the impact of political news is very, very important, because it can create crazy moves in the market. So we are seeing political risk with British pound as well as Japanese yen. So anytime there is geopolitical risk, it usually pushes the Swiss franc up, and it will push the Japanese yen up, and that's what we had seen. All right, so that's just the commentary around what was going on from overall perspective in the market. So going forward tomorrow, let's take a quick peek here. So actually, Euro Yen looks like it wants to drop. Yeah, Euro Yen is a good potential short. So I will actually 132.18. So it's at a good level to take a short. So I'm actually going to call a trade here. All right, so I am actually going to take a quick trade here. So you guys be careful with Japanese yen though, because we do have geopolitical risk in this. So I'm just, sorry, I'm just want to enter a trade here. So I want to go short. Short Euro JPY, and I'm just going to enter at current price, and my price is at the one that 132.18. So 132.18 is the price. Stop loss is at just going to go a little bit, it's just at a good level in my opinion. So I'm going to go not that crazy about 130. A 132. Well, ideally a 132.56, and then we have about 50 pips to the bottom. Okay, so that's what I am going to do. I'm already in this, so my entry is at 132.18, and my stop's going to be at 132.58, and my take profit will be at 131.75. 131.75. So that gives us enough profit there. Okay, so sorry guys, I just saw it set up there, so just wanted to capture. I wanted to get in there, so let me just sorry, let me just tweet this out just so that everybody gets it. What's going on? Sorry, apologies for this, but I just want to make sure everybody gets it. Okay, all right, so that's a trade that we have entered in, or at least I have entered in. So I'm just looking for price to go. So let me show you what I am looking at. So this is kind of what I'm looking at. So price is overall making, is going lower here. So I'm looking at this. So I am looking at the support and resistance level here. So it hasn't quite pulled back all the way. Overall, I am bearish on euro yen here. So euro hasn't been that strong. So if you take a look at 15-minute chart, see this nice pin bar here? So that's kind of what I'm looking at. It's at 61.8%. I'm just looking for it to come back down to the bottom here. So that's really just the play, just looking for a continuation trade to the downside and looking for price to drop. So this is what I'm looking at. Price seems to be struggling with this level, and I'm just looking for price to sort of continue lower. So that's the play here. Okay, so we'll see how that goes. All right, so going back here into our analysis, we have OPEC meetings coming up tomorrow. So Canadian dollar will be impacted, and usually oil gets impacted by this. So we'll keep that in mind. And then we have GDP for the preliminary GDP for the US, and then Bank of England, Governor Carney speaking again. That will have an impact. And then we have Fed Chair Yellen testifying. Today we had Powell, who is going to replace Yellen. He testified today, and now we have Fed Chair Yellen tomorrow. So US dollar could see some impact from this. Crude oil inventory, so this will kind of go with the OPEC meetings here, and it will impact the Canadian dollar. And then in the evening session, we have business confidence number for New Zealand, and then we have capital expenditure for Aussie. So a lot of stuff going on tomorrow, so I would keep an eye on it. So let's go on to our chart. So let's start off with Euro Yen, since we are looking at it. So with the euro yen, my bias is to the downside. We have a bearish candle close. Yesterday we had a bearish candle close. So now I'm looking for price to come into the bottom here, into this 131.50 level to come and test the low. So overall price is making lower highs. So the bias is to the downside just from the trend perspective. But it has traded in this range. So this is a range that we have seen since September earlier this year, a couple of months ago, and we haven't seen euro yen break out of that range. So what that means is that my target here would be 131.50 level, or even 131.20, which is the bottom of these pins. So I am looking for price to go lower here. Now, once price comes into this support and resistance, we could see a bounce off of that because we are in a range-bound market. So I'm sort of looking for price to do one of these. So that's the play that I'm looking for, price to drop and then bounce off of the bottom of the support line here, bottom of the range, which is at 131.20. So the target to the downside will be 131.20. So the trade that I've taken, I have put in a target that is slightly higher than that. So that gives us plenty of room for a trade to do its thing. Okay, so that's that. So let's take a look at the next one. So since we are on yen crosses, let's just continue on here. So looking at our pound yen here, pound was a little bit crazy. So pound, there is no clear direction at this point because as we can see, we are looking at price doing price reacting to market events, which was the big one was Brexit concern. So that's that is going to still sort of play a role here. And as a result of that, this is a very, very neutral move here. So it came right into the bottom and has pushed off. So we are back into this into the range again. So now we did have a bullish close here, a big whipsaw on both sides, but regardless, bullish candle close, which suggests that price could go higher. So the first target here would be a 149.70 level, and then I'm looking at 150.30 level to the upside. So right now, it is a neutral to bullish candle close. So I'm looking for price to move up higher into 149.60 level. So if we take a look at our charts, there's this big inefficient move. We had an inefficient move to the downside, big inefficient move to the upside, and now we have a 1 hour pin bar, which means we could see a drop here for this one. So the bias, I'm going to be open on this one. I'm not taking this trade because there is too much risk in this one, but based on this 1 hour pin bar, price could pull back lower and there's this inefficiency that could get filled. So I would keep that in mind. Euro yen, we did. Aussie yen. Aussie yen, we had a neutral candle close for the day. We do see price pull back. So neutral to, I would say, bullish here. Price is pulling back higher. So the target here would be to the upside into this support and resistance area, 85.00. And then, but overall bias is still to the downside. So I would expect the price to push up and then come back down. Sort of do one of these and move lower. The first target will be the bottom here, which is this one, 84.30 level to the downside. So I'm looking for price to sort of come back and test the lows again for Aussie yen. Dollar yen here, dollar yen again, we do have a bullish candle close. So this one has not broken the lows here. It has come into the support. It has pushed off of the support, so we could see price go up higher. So looking at 111.80 level as the target level for dollar yen here. So looking for it to move up higher. So this is bullish. And this is where we are. We are coming into resistance here. So if the price is not able to move higher, it could go down from here. So like I said, I would be careful with any of the yen crosses because they're being driven by geopolitical activity right now rather than our technical trade setups. CAD yen is bearish. We have a neutral candle close for the day, but overall the trend is bearish. So I'm looking for price to come back and test the go lower here into this 86.50 level. So that this is sort of what I'm looking at, but it is a neutral candle close, which means it could push up higher, and especially with the OPEC meetings tomorrow, this could Canadian dollar could do any kind of stuff, right? So I would be mindful of that. I tend to stay away from these things because we have no idea what OPEC's going to say. But their current stance is that they're cutting production. They don't want, they want the the oil price to go up. And as a result of that, they're cutting production. What I'm expecting to hear from them is that they're going to kind of stand behind that decision. But again, we never know what they may come out and say. So that's something I would be careful about. So if the oil prices go up, generally Canadian dollar goes up. And if oil prices go down as a result of comments, then Canadian dollar is likely to fall. So that's what I would keep in mind. Okay, so this one here, we have a big spike all the way up to this level that I was watching, the 77.30 level. Now, the problem here, well, we have a big pin bar essentially. So overall, my bias is I'm not hugely bullish on this. So this is an interesting pair. So what's going on with this one is it broke this previous highs and it went into the next support and resistance level. So overall, the bias is still to the downside, but it has not been able to go lower. And usually when something doesn't go lower, it tends to go higher, right? So that's something to keep in mind. So for now, I am looking at this rejection. And if Aussie yen drops, then New Zealand yen is likely to drop as well. So that's something to be kept in mind. But if dollar yen goes up, a pound yen goes up, euro yen goes up, then this could go up as well. So it will, again, be dependent to a great extent on what the yen crosses do. But based on the daily close here, I see this as rejection of the previous level. And as such, I am looking for price we could see price do this. So this would be an ideal setup personally for me, because then we would get a double top here. But if this does not happen, if price does one of these, then it could go higher, because we have all this level here, like this entire move. We haven't really seen a good retracement here, and this could turn into a really good pullback. So be mindful of that. Okay, so let's start off with our US crosses. So for the euro, we had a really nice bearish candle close here, pin bar, and we saw a follow through of that. Now we have a daily bearish candle close. I'm looking for price to come down lower. And the target in this case, I like this 1.1765-ish target. It could go a little bit lower into this 1.17, sorry, not 60, 1.1755 target. So this is the level that I'd be looking for price to drop here based on this very solid candle close for the day. And looking at the 1 hour candle close, we could see a pullback into this level, 1.1875, and then a drop. But if price stays below this pivot point, then we're looking for price to move back lower. We could come into support here at 1800, so 1.1800. So that's a level that I would be paying attention to. And then the next level is basically, let me go back to daily, sorry. Looking at this pin here, 1.1750 level will be the next target to the downside. So bearish on euro dollar. Pound dollar, pound is interesting. We had a pin here, and then we have a very neutral candle close. Price has gone down a lot, and it's gone up a lot. So at this point, it's very, very neutral candle close. But as long as price stays below this 133.80 level, I'm looking for price to come back lower. And in that case, it could go back into this 132.30-ish level. But again, the concern would be what's going on with Brexit negotiations. If Brexit negotiations go well, then this could break the high. And if it breaks the high, then we are looking at price to move higher into 134.50. But again, 133.80 level will be a very important level to watch, because what could happen here is one of these and then a drop. So that's what I would be keeping an eye on, 133.80 level. So looking at it from 1 hour perspective, this is where we are. We are very, like, this is very volatile move. Nice spin bar here, so this could drop, but again, it could go and test the high once again and then drop. So I would be watching this like a hawk, 133.80 level. If it goes above this, then it's going to turn bullish and the next target would be higher. But if it doesn't cross this 133.80 level, then we're looking for price to move back lower. Okay, Aussie dollar here. Aussie is still bearish, but the move is becoming smaller and smaller. So that's something to keep in mind. With such a small move here, which means it could reverse. And also with going into the OPEC meetings, that's why the commodity currencies were actually stronger today. And in all fairness, the New Zealand and Aussie probably weren't the best pairs to trade, just because, and Canadian dollar as well, because they were, in my opinion, they're waiting on the OPEC meetings tomorrow. And as such, they're kind of in one of those wait and see modes. So with the OPEC meetings, even though Canadian dollar will be the main one to get impacted, but when Canadian dollar gets impacted, Aussie and New Zealand, they kind of tend to go in line with that. So if Canadian dollar goes up, Aussie and New Zealand tend to go up as well. So dollar CAD goes down, Aussie dollar and New Zealand dollar will tend to go up. So they're sort of inversely related in terms of dollar CAD and Aussie and New Zealand dollar. So keep that in mind. But having said that, it hasn't been able to break above this support and resistance level, 76.30 level. And as long as it stays below this level, we still have that bearish bias in place. So as we can see from the very top, we are making lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. So that bias overall trend is to the downside. But what could happen in this case is price could go over here and then do one of these. So in my opinion, this will be the best level for a potential short trade if it stays below this level, 76.30 level. And if it goes higher, if it breaks this level, then I'm looking for price to go into the 7,700 level. But overall, the bias is to the downside, and I'm looking for price to essentially move lower. And the target here is 75.50 level to the downside, or even 75.36 level here. So looking for price to come into the bottom of this pin here. So bearish bias for Aussie dollar. And if you can see, price hasn't really done much, and this tends to happen when there's an important event coming up, and that's what we're seeing here. But as long as price stays below here, below this level, the bias still remains to the downside. New Zealand dollar, a very nice pin bar on New Zealand dollar. As such, I'm looking for price to move lower. So 68.50 would be the target to the downside. But again, the same thing applies to all commodity currencies. If OPEC comes out and they are very bullish on oil, that could turn things around, which means New Zealand and Australian dollar could go higher and dollar CAD could drop. So that's the only caveat, but overall from technical perspective, that's a really nice pin bar. I do like this, and I would be looking for price to drop into 68.50 level to the downside. Dollar CAD looking quite bullish here, 2 days of bullish price move, and as a result, looking for price to move higher. The problem will be right about here. So we are coming into that resistance level where the price bounced off before, or we could see price go into this 128.50 level. If the price stays below, then we could see it drop further. But if it blows through, if OPEC is bullish on oil, we're likely to see this go higher. So 129.20. So right now the bias is to the upside, and I'm looking for price to move up higher for dollar CAD. Quick look at Swiss franc here. Euro Swiss franc, bearish candle close. Overall, we are in an uptrend. So we had a nice doji here, and then we have a nice candle close here, bearish candle close. So I'm looking for price to come back lower into this support and resistance level. Plus, we have a trend line here. So 1.1580 will be the target to the downside. So Euro Swiss franc is looking bearish. Pound Swiss franc, just like all the other pound crosses, we've had this big, huge move. We saw rejection here, price dropped, but then it went up higher. So with this one, again, yen and British pound, I'm looking for them to be driven by political events or geopolitical events. So as a result of this one, we are into this resistance here. Sort of about there. So that's our support and resistance area. If the price stays below 131.80, then it could drop. But right now it hasn't broken the lows and it has made higher lows. And the candle close has been bullish, even though we have pins on both sides, which gives it a bit of neutral bias. So we are neutral to bullish on this one. So I'm looking for price to go up higher into 131.80. And if it crosses that, then that is going to become a bullish move up, and then we could see this inefficiency, the rest of the inefficiency get filled because price has traded in this range for quite some time. If the price breaks out, it could break out quite in a quite bullish way. So keep that in mind. But for now, it is a range bound move, and as a result, I'm just looking for price to go into the high here, 131.80, and that will be the decision point. My first criteria for a range bound market is a bounce off of the highs, right? So looking for price to drop here, but if it doesn't, we have to be open for a break to the upside. So I would be open at this level. So if it breaks higher, then I'm looking for price to go into 132.50 level. So the first target is 131.80, second target 132.50 to the upside. Dollar Swiss franc here, bullish, looking for further move to the upside. 98.80 will be the target here. So looking for price to go up higher for this. So this is quite clear for dollar Swiss franc. All right, any questions or anything to add? All right, so just a quick note about the position. I may not be around to manage the Euro Yen position that I entered, so our standard rules apply. If the price moves 20 pips in our direction, I am going to lock in my my price there, and anytime ever the price goes 20 pips in my favor, I lock it in at break even +2. That way it removes the risk from the trade. So with this one, I'm just going to trail my stop. If it gives me 20 pips, I'm just going to lock it in. And then we do have the target in place. So I'm going to leave the target, which is the low. So just going back to Euro Yen here, this is what it looks like currently. So this is the price, this is where the price is reacting. So we have price kind of going down. So I'm gonna, once I get 20 pips here, I'm gonna lock the 20 pips in and move my stop to break even. Then our target is in towards the bottom here, and then I will let it run. So that's my standard operating procedure for any trades that I take. I just trail my stops and I lock in as soon as I get 20 pips. I go to break even. I don't even give it a chance. So that's where we are at. So keep an eye on this one and see how it goes. US dollar index. Okay, Hamid, I will try to find a US dollar index. I'll have to look for it. Yeah, I can see if I can find it. Yeah, going forward. Sounds good. So you guys have a wonderful evening, and I will be back in the London session again. So I will see you shortly. Bye for now.